I quit my cushy dystopian six-figure day job to try to launch a startup. It's called Agora Pluribus Technologies. I couldn't stay in corporate America. I mean, I was earning the most money I earned in my life, but I couldn't look myself in the mirror and respect the man I saw. I think that it's important for anyone out there. It's important to whatever career you decide or whatever you do with your life. At the end of the day, you have to look yourself in the mirror and be okay with that. And so for me, this is my way of doing that.
Michael, welcome to the World XP Podcast. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, why don't you do a quick intro for yourself, kind of who you are and what you do and what you're up to, and then we'll hop into the question from the last guest, and then we'll just get into the rest of it. I think we'll have loads to talk about today. For those listening, this conversation will probably be all over the place. So if you like that, enjoy. If you don't like that, let the video run anyway, so I get the watch hours. And and yeah, Michael, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right, well, thank you. My name is Michael Yee. I'm a software engineer with about 6 years in the industry. And just a little over 2 weeks ago, I quit my day job in corporate America. I was working for JP Chase, but I quit my cushy dystopian six-figure day job to try to launch a startup. The startup is called Agora Pluribus Technologies. And what sort of led me to make this decision is this realization over I'm looking back on the last 6 years of my career. I mostly worked in corporate America. Now I'm a software engineer. I have problem solving skills and analytical skills, and I've mostly been using these skills at work. And I'm realizing that I didn't have much of an impact. I want to use my skills to solve problems, but what sort of problems have I solved? And I came to the conclusion that I mostly helped rich people get richer. My first job out of college, I was working for a good 5 years at this telecom company called CommScope. And it was a good place to work. My team was good. It's just the projects I ended up working on, they ended up not really taking off. So, and then they were going through some difficulties due to the pandemic. And eventually I got laid off. And then I went to a defense contracting company. And the mission was good, but it was kind of a toxic work environment. So, and then just in February, about 5 months ago, I moved over to JP Chase, and then I was earning the most money I've ever earned in my life. Great benefits, good team, good work-life balance. The office campus, I would even call it a campus. It was beautiful, beautiful walkable paths. There were even clubs and activities. It was almost like a college campus, except for the fact that my paycheck came out of the credit card industry, and 60% of the revenue of the credit card industry comes out of interest on credit card debt from working people. And also another 20 or 25 or so percent of the revenue comes from these interchange fees. Basically, you can think of it like the credit card companies skim off of every single transaction going through the cards. They charge the businesses to allow for them to use the cards. And it's like a sales tax, except the cost gets passed on to the consumer. And also it doesn't go to Medicaid. It goes to the C-suite and to the shareholders. So at some point, part of why I quit my job and trying to launch this startup, and I'll get into what I'm trying to do with it in a bit, but just like my metric of success cannot be getting more people into credit card debt and raising prices across the economy. I'm a problem solver. It felt evil to me to profit off of this system.
Yeah, that's a good reason, I would say. So this question from the last guest, I think actually, if you put on your creative cap, will be a good way to start, because I don't know. I'll just ask the question. We'll go from there. If you were an M&M flavor, what M&M flavor would you be?
M&M flavor. I actually haven't eaten that many M&Ms because growing up I used to have allergies to peanuts. Now I agree with those allergies, but I don't.
Let me help you.
Maybe peanut M&Ms. I don't know.
Yeah, let me help you, because when she told me this question, I was like, wait, I thought there was only three flavors. Apparently, there's 10 or 12 now. So I had the same reaction. Yeah, there's a caramel one, and wow. Brianna, I'm so sorry. I don't remember any of the flavors you told me.
So clearly haven't bought any of them.
Yeah, I haven't bought any of them. Okay, so the peanut M&M, I think that's got a good mix. Anyways, I'm not gonna try to make some philosophical point about this.
Yeah,
Brianna, I'm so sorry. The question was a good, it was good. Okay, so you're working at JP Morgan, you're in the credit card industry. Talk through those pass-through fees and some of the other things. And I think people don't realize, or people maybe if you go to like a small kind of like my barber shop has this, for instance,
mm,
where or gas stations sometimes have this where they'll have a price for like credit cards and a price for cash.
yes,
And they're slightly different. And people are always like, why is that? And I think maybe it's getting more common knowledge that credit cards have charged like 2 or 3% on top of every transaction. But for a small business, that can make or break like a margin there,
yeah, like
because small
like a,
businesses
yeah.
don't really cut costs. There's like small businesses are running off of like whatever they have, so there's not really cost to cut from that perspective. And so talk through that pass-through fee and kind of some of the things that you saw in the credit card industry, just to give people an overview of like what it is and how it actually works and that sort of stuff from somebody that was in it.
Yeah, for sure. And this is what I was talking about with the interchange fees. So they're called interchange fees. Um, and basically every transaction, like you were saying, it can be pretty big, like 2, 3% every transaction. Um, that the credit card issuers charge the business just to allow the business to use the cards. And that's why some of these small businesses have a different price for credit cards, is because, well, it actually costs more to use the credit cards per transaction. And so, again, this is sort of like it's basically synthetic inflation. It increases the prices, uh, and like I was saying, a good 20% of the revenue coming into that industry, and this is a very lucrative industry. It comes from these interchange fees. Now, the way this works with a lot of credit cards in the United States, and I say in the United States because it's regulated different around the world, but in the United States, these interchange fees are not really regulated. And uh, what credit card companies have found is that if they can charge really high interchange fees, then they can fund rewards programs that are pretty nice sounding. Like, maybe you get to, oh, do you want to spend a weekend in Paris, or like you might get like a hotel or like however many free stays at participating hotels for free, or you might get airplane tickets in first class at a discount. And uh, what that is just like, so yeah, they throw all these shiny rewards at people, but what it allows them to do is like, oh, here are all these really high spenders, and they're on our cards. They buy the premium cards. Oh, and if you want access to these high spenders, you got to pay the 3% interchange fee. And I guess the one company who's the most well known for trying to use very high interchange fees, it's American Express. They have their brand, like they're the premium sort of brand, um, and traditionally they're associated with a lot of these high spenders, these very well-to-do people. You need a pretty good credit score to get some of their cards, and what it does is that again, the interchange fees are off of every transaction, and so it's a way of funneling money away from working people into these richer people who go on vacations. Um, it's like these vacations are being bankrolled by credit card debtors and I guess people just needing to buy things with a credit card. Um, so, was there a second part of the question?
No, I think that's a good start. And because the other thing I want to touch on is like we mentioned some of the gas stations or barber shops or whatever where there's different prices listed. But most places that's not the case, right? You end up with the same price regardless of if you pay a debit or credit or cash.
Right.
And so there's almost no benefit to, right? You mentioned this interchange fee, but most places you go, you're gonna get hit with that fee that's built into whatever the price of the product is.
Right. It's just baked
And
in the price, and like it's invisible.
yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
completely invisible. And so, like, from the standpoint of somebody, like, let's say, like, you might get the argument, well, since it's baked in, I might as well use the credit card anyways because at least I get some cash back or at least I get some points or something like that.
Yeah, but this is a business. Like you're getting back less in cash back than they make off of the interchange fees. So like,
Oh, of course, but if the
um,
price is baked in anyways, then why would you not do that?
yeah,
Is an argument
yeah,
that you might
it's like
get.
this sort of game theory kind of uh, scenario where it only makes sense. Well, as a normal consumer, if you can get 3% cash back on gas versus not, then well, I guess you're going to do it anyway. But that kind of contributes to the problem that increases the prices.
Mm.
So, and also I said earlier, it's like this in the United States. Well, as it turns out, in the European Union, they passed laws to cap interchange rates uh, to like I think it was like 0.4%.
What
Yeah,
is the
like
point? What is the point of an interchange fee? Right? There's lots of fees everywhere that people are always like, what's the point of this? Like what like is it just because they can?
well, so there has to be some non-zero amount because it actually costs money to run the infrastructure in the background or whatever. But at some point, it's like it doesn't have to be 3%. Like that's exorbitant. Uh,
Mm.
there have been efforts, I guess, in the past in Congress. There's something called the Credit Card Competition Act, trying to use market forces to lower the interchange fees. And I think there were efforts in the past to cap the interest rates on debt, but it's nowhere near where it should be because uh, like a 3%, like 3%, that's ridiculous. Like that, like there's no reason it needs to be that high.
Yeah. Okay, so you're at JP Morgan Chase and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna quit my job. So I guess where did the idea for the startup come from? And have you always been in the kind of entrepreneurial space, or is this more of a new realization for you? Like talk to me through your journey from I don't know if disillusioned is the right word, but
Yeah.
whatever your awakening or whatever word you want to use, that sort of journey into like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And I need a plan. If I'm going to quit this sort of corporate America life, I need a plan. And this is going to be my plan. So talk to me through that kind of journey from yourself, things that you saw where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And then to, okay, well, if I'm going to stop doing this, I need to do something. And then how did you come up with the idea?
Okay. Yeah. So I basically I went to school at Cornell University. I went to the College of Engineering. I graduated in 2019, and then, like a lot of people fresh out of college, I went into corporate America. I actually had a job lined up because I had interned for at the time it was Eris, the telecom company. But by the time I returned to work back to go work on the exact same team, they'd been acquired by CommScope. But uh, anyway, that was a really, I mean, that was a good team. I really liked them, but and then for the first few years, it's like it's great. Just like for one, I get to be a nerd for a living. Oh, and I get paid for it instead of having to pay tuition. So just getting to be a nerd for a living was great. And then at some point, you get farther down a few years in the industry. It's just okay. So I just started feeling like I wasn't growing as fast, and also that like again with these projects I was working on, and they just ended up not taking off or getting that much traction, and so and then the pandemic hit, and we had to work from home. There's a my mental health took a pretty bad nosedive around the pandemic, but I recovered, and so that was like the first 5 years of my career. It's just like it was great to earn money, and I did earn pretty good money, especially for someone my age. As a software engineer, it's no secret that software engineers tend to do pretty well. But and yeah, and then I got laid off due to the I guess the problems that the business was having, not only just from this acquisition, but also the pandemic. I think that like they may have laid off like a good 15-20% of their workforce, and over time. And uh, yeah, and then well, being laid off, it was kind of an opportunity because I was not feeling like the most fulfilled at my last job. But so then I started looking. I eventually started working at this defense contracting startup company. It's like, okay, well, it's a startup company. Maybe it's smaller, it's scrappier, and it takes on contracts from mostly the Department of Homeland Security. So I like the mission. Maybe use my skills to help protect the homeland or something. Uh, and I'm not really going to get into it, but like it wasn't the best environment. That place had like a good 90% employee turnover it was yeah, it was. I basically had to get out at some point. Like sort of late 2024. I decided I had to get out.
Hmm.
And I managed to land this job at JP Morgan Chase. And like I was saying, this is like it was the most money I've like the biggest salary I ever had, the best benefits I've ever had. JP Morgan Chase, it's like one of the biggest corporations on earth. They have like really good benefits. They have a lot of resources for employees. Um, and like I got past my 90-day mark. I think it was like um, May 10th or 11th. And I should have felt like I made it. Like you know, I got this far. I'm working at this great company, this world, renowned company even. And so I should have felt like I'd made it, but I didn't because like what I was saying before about this is the credit card industry, and I was like profiting off this exploitative industry. Um, and then meanwhile, with Donald Trump, the new administration, they were starting to do these tariffs. It was like late April, like the first wave of tariffs hit, and like the economy went, there's a lot of chaos in the economy. I remember at the time, it's just like this really this sense of unease, and I almost got into an accident because people were driving really angry on the road. I almost got sideswiped by someone. I just like I just and around that time I just
That
felt
might be a Philly problem, though.
well. I mean, I was driving in Philly that whole time, but like right around when the tariffs hit, people were getting more aggressive on the road. Um, and I don't think that was just a Philly thing, although I don't know, maybe it was, but um, and then this felt an awful lot like back during the pandemic, when the Trump administration was uh, basically bungling the response to the virus so badly that some of his most ardent supporters were calling it a pandemic, as if you could have planned something like this to sink his campaign. Um, but yeah, I mean, and like I was saying back in the pandemic, my mental health took a really bad turn. It was almost catastrophic. But I got saved by the emergency psychiatric services at what used to be the Crozier Chester Health System in Chester,
Mm.
Pennsylvania. And I don't know if you've heard of Crozier Chester Medical Center, but that was a for-profit hospital in Chester, Pennsylvania that recently went out of business. And that was also part of it. This place that saved my life, they went out of business because it is unprofitable to serve the poor. And Chester is one of the poorest counties in Pennsylvania, um, and I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff going on there. I think the owner had basically run it into the ground for a profit, and but also part of it is that the disproportionate share funding dried up over time. That's this government subsidization to keep these private hospitals afloat where it's not profitable for them to be in business. So and that sort of dried up over the years, and that didn't help. But in any case, it's just like it's unconscionable to me. Well, we went through the pandemic. There's certain people who profited off the pandemic. Meanwhile, this hospital that it saved my life for one. Well, in terms of the mental health stuff, but even like during COVID, I mean, they were administering vaccines. They were saving lives during the pandemic, and this place went under. And it's unconscionable to me how we as a society can allow a hospital to go out of business whereas the people who profited by this thing going out of business get to skate by at the top. And it's just like this hospital, like this community needs a hospital. And I think there have been efforts by the state government. Josh Shapiro was our governor. He's a good guy. He's yeah and But it's just like the whole like it's unclear what's going to happen moving forward, because like this hospital, like plenty of people use this hospital system. It's not just the hospital, it's the whole medical system. The whole medical system went out. I mean, and so I mean, I'm on a wait list for some other primary care doctor. I don't really have a primary care doctor right now because that's where and it's been quite a few months. But so that's part of it. This happened. When did this happen? This happened. I think this happened actually around the same time as the tariffs hit. So it's just like I'm part of what led me to do this big career change. Well, I'm sitting here, profiting off the economic misery of millions in the credit card industry. I'm in this dystopian day job. And I'm cashing in on the chaos. This hospital went out of business. That saved my life. And it's just like, well, like it's just so that's part of it. And then also, I haven't even gotten into what I'm trying to do with my startup. So I'm trying to use
So
software.
let's hold on. So let's go. So just to summarize for people listening, you had this place that helped you a lot during the pandemic that went under due to the, we'll say, socioeconomic status of the constituency that it served. You had the industry that you were working in, and you had the chaos and unease of the economic and political kind of situation, and all kind of happened at the same-ish time. And so you're like, you know what, I've got a, because you wrote on you've got this blog called Philly Tech Dude for people that are interested. I'll put the link in the description. But you've got this kind of realization in there that you wanted to go to like public service. And so that to me is quite interesting because now you want to give back already in a way that I think is most people that want to give back are like, oh, I don't have enough to give back, or I don't have enough time, or I don't have this or that. And you're like, just no, I'm gonna do it. So you put this post out on LinkedIn and you get, I don't know, what was the term used, semi-viral, it goes semi-viral.
So the post on LinkedIn, it was basically um, announcing that I quit my job in corporate America to launch this startup. And
Yes.
well, the startup is to empower ordinary people instead of exploit them for profit. Um,
Yeah.
Mostly, I'm a software engineer by trade, so I'm going to try to develop a free and open source software platform. But along with that, I want to get into civic and financial education because I think it's like why are these things not taught anywhere? Like, I mean, depending on where you go to school, you might get taught basic civics. I mean, a lot of people know, and more so for financial literacy. Like, this is financial literacy. It's so important, and it's not really taught in any sort of standardized fashion. Um,
Mm-mm.
so
No.
uh, yeah, so basically, that site has a lot of ideas on it, and I was considering that could be like the basis for like a platform for like a new party or something. I'm still working on that, but I see like, I really like where Andrew Yang used to be. I don't like where he is now. And then he's kind of working with Elon Musk to start this new America party. What's the platform? Oh, I don't know. Vibes, no policy. I mean, but so, I mean, I have some interesting policy ideas, I guess. And I'm not an expert or anything, and obviously I would need to work with people who are experts. But um, yeah, so basically, I think no one starts out as an expert, um, and it's okay not to know things, and it's okay, but part of my realization is just like, well, give me like 5-10 years, I might be able to learn enough to contribute in a meaningful way and move the needle. Because I think also in our politics there isn't really enough efforts trying to claw back power from corporate America, um, and also within the government. There's there was a previous episode on your podcast where you interviewed this what was a professor, or his name was Dr. H.W. Brands. He was talking about how over time, what was the Neutrality Acts that followed World War One that placed very strong guardrails on the presidency got eroded over time. So basically, no one starts out as an expert, but I have a desire to give back, and I'm done using my skills to be a part of the problem. And so I'm going to start, and then I also have I can start already with software, and then I also have an interesting sort of way of thinking about politics. So I started as an Army Democrat, and I think I think I'm more kind of like a left leaning independent right now. I don't know. It's um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to wait to try to do to do something that you want to do. Uh, and I think also um, politics gets very complicated, but there are a few major forces in politics that have outsized influences. And within the Democratic Party, the neoliberal coalition, the New Democrat coalition that rose to power when Bill Clinton won the presidency in 1992, they even to this day they have an outsized you know influence within the party. They control a lot of or have a lot of influence over a lot of the leadership positions. Um, and I think one of the tactics they use, they try to gatekeep things behind expertise and experience, which I mean, yes, that's important, but it can also be used to sort of preserve their power and status within the party at the expense of other people. They like to call themselves and I'm painting with a broad brush. They don't all think like this, but you know, um, I think their brand is they are the adults in the room. But I mean, in the United States, how many millions of adults are there? And supposedly we have a voice on Capitol Hill, supposedly. So I think one of the things with politics is like it's important in a democracy for ordinary people to be able to contribute. Like that's the whole point of the system. And if we're all stuck, the experts got everything. Well, I mean, okay, like the experts do have a lot of expertise and they know they have intricate knowledge of the systems and everything, but if you get enough of that, then ordinary people will just feel powerless. And I think we've seen that create conditions for this sort of cult of personality. It's like, well, everyone's hopeless, nobody has power. Oh, this guy, he alone can fix it. I think part of it it's part of it is that ordinary people feel powerless. And I think also, I don't have the conventional background for this sort of stuff, but like, I think part of it is that, well, I don't start out as an expert, and I'm willing to learn, and but I don't want to be, I don't trust the experts to honestly anymore. I mean, basically the experts have been clueless about Trump for the past 10 years. I don't know. It's
Yeah, they've got a lot of things wrong in a variety of ways.
and it's not out of malice or anything. I just think that there's not enough different opinions. There's not enough diversity, and so they end up in this sort of these sort of insular kind of stovepipe kind of areas where some things might seem obvious and true to them, but it's far enough removed that it could just it doesn't come across to ordinary people. And I think, well, yes, the law can be complicated, but it's also written in plain English. And every public law on the record is public information. You can actually go on to congress.gov and look up any law, the full text of any law. And in a democracy, ordinary people are supposed to have an impact on how these laws get written. And it's basically like the law is open source. The law is, well, it's not free, but it's open source. And so I think, yes, like there are certain legal concepts like talking about the tax policy in the United States. I had a lot of on the site. I had a lot of ideas, and I think by the time this podcast comes out, I'll probably have retired that site. I'll probably move it to a new site, but but yeah, like for example, this concept of realized versus unrealized gains. I think that's a sort of fabrication by the Supreme Court. So the 16th Amendment of the Constitution says that the government can tax, incomes of any source.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty unequivocal. And at some point, there have been rulings, like I think I was talking about the Eisner v. McComber decision in 1920, but like there are these rulings by the Supreme Court. Oh, well, this income is taxable and this income is not. But I mean, there's a process to change the Constitution. It's called the constitutional amendment process. And if you don't pass a constitutional amendment, then the stuff in the Constitution, well, that's supposed to be the supreme law of the land. For example, in Article 1, Section 8, the Constitution authorizes Congress to regulate commerce between nations.
Mm-hmm.
So why is President Trump allowed to do this by himself without the consent of Congress, like the tariffs?
Yeah. So
Has
I
there been
think I
constitutional amendment? No.
no, there hasn't. I think that's interesting though that you mentioned that because that's not the right the in the Constitution as well. Congress has the power to declare war, but the last time
Right.
that the United States actually declared war was World War II, and of course that's not the last war that we fought in. So there's a bunch of examples of and like you mentioned, Dr. Brands said that very explicitly, where Congress has just been giving its power away to the executive branch for some time. Um, and so I think I think that's a very good point that you bring up there. And I also think in terms of just to get on the kind of circle back to the startup and what it actually like what you hope to accomplish with that, right? Because you've laid out a bunch of things that I think people would look at and be like, yeah, that doesn't seem right, or why is this that way? Like that we're supposed to have a say in this or that. Um,
And so, yeah, I guess I'll get into the sort of business model. So,
yeah, yeah,
basically, I'm trying to these areas of focus would be I'd be trying to act as a one man sort of nonprofit, but there are ways for me to earn revenue.
Or what do you hope to accomplish, right? You mentioned financial literacy, you mentioned civic education, but like how do you propose to get these things out there, right? Pretend I'm an investor or something like that. Like how do you propose like yeah, I want to make people more financially literate. Cool, sounds good.
Well,
How are you going to do that?
yeah, so there's the low hanging fruit would be to create free and available like resources on the internet. You just get
Hmm.
a web page um, to just to inform about basically compound interest. Like the biggest thing you need to know to be financially literate is to understand how not only wealth can compound over time exponentially, but also debts can compound exponentially over time, and then different. It's just like the math of well, if you have debt that increases exponentially, like your priority would be to eliminate the debt first instead of trying to invest in the stock market or anything. But also, once you're free of debt, there are ways to invest your money in the stock market that your wealth will grow exponentially over time. And I think a lot of people they don't have enough money to invest. Like so many people just don't have any investments in the stock market. Um, but if you have enough to invest in the stock market, then the wealth can accumulate exponentially over time, and this can help you. It will outpace inflation too in the long run. Maybe this month is bad or this month is good, but in the long run, the idea is that investments in the stock market will increase over time, and that's the whole idea behind uh, retirement funds, where these are tax advantage retirement funds. There are steep penalties for withdrawing from them, so you're supposed to just like invest in the stock market and let it sit, and then over time, the wealth can accumulate exponentially. So I think the low hanging fruit would just be to create low hanging, free online resources, and I can come up with like web pages. I can come up with sort of these interactive applets. Um, uh, yeah, and then so that's just to get started, but also and then um, I guess the goal is to use my skills to actually contribute. I can do more than just software engineering. I also am a self-taught music producer. I can compose, arrange, mix, and master music. So, and I haven't been able to do that as much as I wanted while I'm in corporate America. So I can use that not only just help me earn revenue, but that I could maybe use that my skills, for activism is an idea. Like I think that's kind of an untapped potential, like using music for activism. And there have been artists that write music for campaigns in the past, but like, um, I just, what if I can do both at the same time?
Mm.
Um, I think it would be different. And then uh, other skills I've had, yeah, I guess. I talked about on my website that I was planning on this print on demand store. So that's basically, I wrote this computer program that can generate digital art in this dot style. So here I have this shirt here. It
Oh,
I'm
very nice.
Yes, this is a Chinese dragon, an imperial Chinese dragon. So let me get it close enough to the camera. You can see it's made up
Yeah,
of
yeah.
dots. So this will be the visual brand for my business. basically the idea, just like individual dots can form something that's larger than the sum of the parts. But I think like this sort of design that like I can generate those designs pretty quickly. I have you know and it's not AI generated art. I literally wrote the software it takes an input, an image as an input, and then it applies the dots, and I can program in, oh, maybe this region would be, you randomize the red, green, and blue channels to go between red and yellow with orange in between. And so that's what you saw on the dragon. Actually, I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
I can take the shirt back here, and then you see like this pearl. It's like more blue and purple, and then
yeah.
this is all randomized by by a computer program that I wrote. Now, um, and then so whether or not like wherever you are on the political spectrum for anything, I think like these shirts are pretty cool. I mean, um, and I was gonna set it up through Printful and Shopify. I guess my ideal workflow would be I can generate the art and press a button and then it's on my shops because like Printful and Shopify both have APIs, which are it's application programming interfaces. You can write a program to basically automate, uh, uh, you know, uploading products or like modifying products. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then so I was going to do that. Um,
Let's go to the civic education piece as well. Actually, so for the financial literacy, I think the power of compound interest is a super good like basic thing to teach people. I also think probably Roth versus standardized 401ks or
yeah,
IRAs
like
is a good one. And just like also to make it in a way that's digestible and accessible. Like you're writing on the both the Agora Pluribus site and the Philly Tech Dude site is it's easy to understand. And so I think
thank you.
that's probably a good way to go about doing that. And then just like teaching the difference between ETFs and mutual funds or brokerage accounts and all these different things where it's actually not that complicated where you invest in the stock market and all of a sudden you're recession proof or not recession proof, inflation proof because the stock price will rise with inflation. So if your dollar is in the stock and the price rises due to inflation, then you get that you are kind of inflating along with it,
Yeah, and I think
for
that
lack of a better term.
it's important to understand like if there is a profit incentive for these corporations, well, if you're earning profit, then by definition you're outpacing inflation. And by definition, you're earning
Yeah.
something on top of just like breaking even. So that's why these companies can outpace inflation over time. And I also think that I'm a big believer in the small cap value premium. Now, a lot of what that means is that if you invest in undervalued small businesses, then that investment will grow faster in the long run over time than the similar investment in even the largest corporations on earth. And
Mhm.
so I think, and that's sort of my, you know, that's emblematic of my, I guess, my political beliefs too. So invest in this in undervalued, uh, the small guys, the small people, this sort of David versus Goliath kind of framing that I had on that site. Uh,
Yeah. Have you heard of Richard Werner? He's the father of quantitative easing.
no, I've not.
Okay. Well, in any event, basically what he advocates for is lots of local and smaller banks that will invest in exactly what you're saying, the local and small firms, because
Oh wow.
these are the ones that make the local communities go. And whereas the bigger banks, they are less inclined to loan or to give kind of financial backing to the smaller firms because they make more money on the bigger deals and so they work with the bigger companies and then the smaller ones get left out. I'll send you some of his stuff later. I think that that would help kind of add some flavor into what it is that you're writing. For the civic education piece, what's sort of your ideas for these? Like in my head when I was reading this, I was like, okay, he's gonna put a copy of the Constitution on there and explain what every article means.
Well,
But like obviously that's a very simplified way, but what are your ideas for that piece?
well, I think that so much of our politics is very national, but there's also a very real, local government structures that you can interact with, and I think uh, just more knowledge of the local issues, like how you can, you know, maybe you can even write to your state representative on things. Um, like for example, if you're having trouble getting on unemployment, you can just write to your state representative and they'll help you because like these people they're supposed to be responsive to the constituents. It doesn't matter what party or whether or not you vote. Like if you write to your representative, they're supposed to help you out. And if you write on the local level, there's not nearly as many people writing to these local level officials. Of course, if you get up like if you try to contact the office of a senator, I mean, okay, like, and depending on what state you might be competing with like thousands of other correspondences. Um, but on the local level, there's a good chance that your message will get read, and then you can also even call the office. You can visit their offices. Um, like I think there are ways to interact with the government that it's just people don't haven't even thought that they could do. It just because I think a lot of politics just feels like it just feels like so far removed from ordinary life. It's just like yeah, like just to educate about certain like how local government works, and then also local government just feels more like it feels more uh it's less national. It feels less partisan sometimes. Um, I think that's why you've seen in certain places, like in certain red states, you've seen even Democrats can win a governor's race and vice versa. Um, but on the national level, it's completely different. So I think, um, and in some of what I was talking about, what did I write on that site? This idea of in certain states, you can it's possible for ordinary citizens to start like a ballot initiative for something,
Mm.
and that can be nonpartisan. So, for example, on the federal level, if you want, for example, a public option for healthcare, well, you needed to vote for Biden and Democrats. But like, there are Republicans who like the idea of a public option who would never in a million years vote for Democrats, which is fine. But if you have something like a ballot initiative, um, and this is how in states like in Missouri or in Florida, they have people have been able to raise the minimum wage. Um, or in Ohio. It's just like not every state is like this. It's like a state by state basis, and unfortunately, Pennsylvania, it's you ordinary citizens cannot initiate something on the ballot. But this idea that well, maybe it's if you want, for example, like I was talking about on the site, on my Agora Pluribus site, and that's kind of a stub for now. But this idea where if you can tax the rich, you can pay for a reduction in income taxes. Um, and on the state and local level first. So, like for example, in the city of Philadelphia, where I'm living, there's about a 3% municipal income tax on
Hmm.
top of the state income tax, on top of the federal income tax, and well, uh, I guess I would call myself, sort of this in this sort of area that I believe in this very specific type of tax called a land value tax. So it's basically you tax it's like a wealth tax on the total value of land, but and this goes back to well if like you don't want to tax productivity, you don't want to tax income, but maybe you tax stagnated wealth. Um, so if you can shift the burden of taxes from working people to the rich, and on the state and local level, this would be in the form of what well, it would be what's called a split rate tax, which is part property tax and part land value tax. And we've seen many instances of this actually being successful in the state of Pennsylvania. It's kind of a Pennsylvania tax, this split rate tax, but that's more of a state and local level kind of tax. Um, and then, yeah, it should be possible to then reduce income taxes for working people. I think like uh, just getting extra take home pay like that sounds pretty cross partisan. Um, uh, and again, if you try to go through partisan national politics, you're probably not going to get anywhere. But on the state and local level, it could be possible, especially if you live in a state that allows for ordinary citizens to put something on the ballot.
Yeah. So let's okay. So in terms of this split, I'm trying to look for your write up on the split rate tax real quick, and I am not finding it.
Well, I guess I can talk about it's just like so. This goes
Oh,
back
there it is.
sort of
Taxes. Duh.
left libertarian kind of area called Georgism. Um,
Okay.
it goes back to Henry George. He was like an economist in the late 1800s, and he talked about how well, like the land is a natural resource, and it's not really the product of human labor. So if you tax that, then it's like the least distortionary kind of tax.
Mm.
Like a lot of taxes tax productivity. Like it's a tax on income, and in fact, a good 85% of the revenue flowing to the federal government comes from income and payroll taxes. Um, so, but what if instead we could tax the rich, not the high earners, the rich? It's on the federal level, this would be slightly different because of there's some very specific section, like Article 1, Section 9, talks about an apportionment requirement for direct taxes. It gets complicated, but basically, the most recent viable way to tax the rich on the federal level is Joe Biden's idea of a minimum billionaire tax or a tax on unrealized capital gains. And what differs between this and like your standard wealth taxes that a lot of countries in Europe tried and that resulted in a lot of capital flight is that, well, capital gains taxes you can't you can't really avoid capital gains taxes. For one, because if you're a U.S. citizen, like you're taxable anywhere in the world. Also, if you like, it's impossible to really move stocks like without like selling them, and then if you sell it, that's a taxable event by itself. Also,
Hmm.
if you're like a billionaire and you want to renounce your U.S. citizenship to skirt the taxes, there's this policy called the exit tax. So, like Elon Musk can't just renounce his citizenship to just like you know, uh, just not get uh, taxed on all his capital assets or his equities. Basically, it's mostly Tesla. Actually, a lot of his net worth is tied up in Tesla stock, and um, when the value of a stock increases, that increases people's net worth, but it's not taxed. So it's like when poor people get richer, at work, they get taxed. When the middle class people get richer, they get taxed. Even high earners, and high earners don't necessarily equate to people who are rich. Like for me, like I'm a software engineer. I was kind of a high earner, but I'm not really that rich because I'm young. But anyway, so high earners getting richer, taxed. Rich people getting richer, not taxed. Like when the value of people's stock portfolios increase, that's not taxed until it is sold, because then that's what's known as a realized like the gains are realized when it's sold, but it's not when it's unrealized. Like, well, the stock can go up or down, um, and this is just like this is why overwhelmingly rich people you just pay way less in taxes as a percent of what they're earning compared to ordinary people. It's just like this idea that the rich people should pay their fair share in taxes, and what that means is that, well, maybe we start taxing Wall Street and not Main Street.
Mm. So how do you propose that that works? Because if I'm sitting there, like let's say somebody's got like $10,000 in a 401k or whatever, and the market goes down that year, and they're not really super rich or whatever, are you gonna tax? How do you propose to tax an unrealized gain of a market dip? Right? We've seen a
Well,
lot of
okay,
boom
so
and bust cycles,
for one,
and
when
there's
market
also
that's not taxable, it would only be on the gains. Also, what Biden was proposing, it's only applied to the richest household. So maybe we could say if you have over $1 million in the stock market, then then this tax is this basically this we'll call it a wealth gains tax. But we're really talking about a tax on unrealized capital gains applies to you if you have less than $1 million in capital assets or in equities, then it wouldn't apply.
so. Why then are you, not you, but people that advocate for this? I think would you and I agree that the government has done maybe a less than ideal job at handling situations, I don't know, since whatever year that you want to put
Yeah,
on
there's
the.
not very high faith in the government right now. It's true.
So why would you want to give them more money?
Well, it's just they're getting money as is, and so the idea is even if the amount of money that's coming in is the same, maybe it should come from uh, the stock market and not from people's income.
I don't disagree, right? Like in terms of people's income shouldn't really be taxed, right? You mentioned earlier tax is kind of like is a punishment on something. So if you put a tax on trade, that disincentivizes trade. I don't really think that that's a good idea. If you put a tax on income, that disincentivizes, right, salaried work. I don't really think that that's a good idea. Um, but I don't see like if you've got somebody who's investing in all right, because what stock is an ownership in a company. And so if you've got people that are investing in like small companies, let's say, and you own like the small cap that you mentioned before, you want to punishing that also doesn't seem like the best idea. So I don't know, like I get what you're saying, but I think there's probably some ways to flesh that out in ways that um I don't like not make more sense because what you're saying I get, but in terms of practicality, I think that would be difficult to implement in a way that would actually be effective. And then also, just like you mentioned, maybe the government having more revenue available is not right. So what have they done with the revenue that's available? The government's $37 trillion in debt.
Right.
It's like, so that doesn't seem, so to me, the way to do that is to slash government spending rather than give them more tax revenue.
Well, there are certain programs that are really important, like like Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, and also the military. And
Sure.
um, and so yeah, I would uh, agree that with this attitude, well, if they're just misusing your funds, let's slash the funding. But so which programs do you want to slash? And so this sort of gets into the tax code is kind of everything goes through is just taxes and like who knows where any of that's going. Well, I mean technically it's all public information, but so I guess one of the things I was thinking well, it should be possible to just similar to how Social Security payroll taxes are. Well, this goes to Social Security. What if we had like a military payroll tax or a? I mean, it doesn't have to be a payroll tax, but like like a military tax or a Medicare tax or like I think if it was more clear where exactly and how much all these taxes were going to, then it would be more transparent. But for right now, it's just like all taxes, like trillions of dollars of taxes, and it's just like, oh, we got to trust them to put it all in the right place, and like they're not very good at that. So, I mean, there's no reason why it has to be just like I don't know, it's like $4 or $5 trillion of tax revenue coming in every year.
Hmm.
It's just like taxes, like what type of taxes? I don't know, just taxes, and it just goes. Where does it go? Um, Actually, it mostly goes to like the military, Social Security, Medicare. Like there's, I mean, and I don't exactly remember that. I think that's a good majority of the spending is on those three, or at least an outsized proportion of the spending is on those three.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about cutting spending, what would you want to cut these three programs?
I mean, we could go through specific, right? Obviously, neither you nor I have the line item budget in front of us,
Right.
but there's stuff that goes on where like there's some stuff I could tell you offline, but in terms of slashing, well, Social Security tax, you know that on your W-2, that's a separate line
Yeah.
item. But you also know that if you invested however much, like let's say over the course of your life, you pay $100,000 in Social Security tax just for easy math. If you invested that in the stock market, you would get way more back than you would get from Social Security just as it's given back to you. So it doesn't seem like so to me it's like okay, sure, let working people have more money in their pockets, but let them keep Social Security and teach them how to invest it in the stock market instead of sending it into to a government program that like you and I might not even see that money, right?
Right.
Because at a
That's
certain point, like I think this year we're paying more interest. The biggest line item in the budget is interest on the national debt. So we might not even see it at all, and we're still paying into it. And so from that perspective, I'd say I get your point, but to keep more money into the working people's pockets, get rid of that, let them keep it, and tell them how to invest it into the stock market, and then you get. And obviously, again, that is a simplified solution, But from that perspective, that's the perspective that I would be coming from in terms of, yeah, totally agree. We need to keep more money in the middle class pocket. And so, but to me, just taking money from other people is not the way to do that because, well, we're $37 trillion in debt, and that's not a good look to be. You know what I mean? So I think there's different ways that we can go about doing it. And I think saying that you're going to tax, not you, but tax the rich as a slogan is very catchy and very like, yeah, we should do that. But I think in practicality, I don't know how well that actually works because there's offshore accounts and there's moving money around, and oftentimes the capital gains are not even realized because they'll take a loan out against their assets or something like
Right.
that and then invest the loan. And so then the money that they make on the investments is higher than the interest that they'll pay on the loan, and they can, or they'll write something off as a business expense, right? They'll say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have this like seminar in Malibu and invite all these people," and everything is a business expense. And so then they turn out making a loss every year. And it's like, well, how do you so to actually write that into the tax code and figure out how to do all those things is a very difficult thing, right? Trump, right? Have you seen the Chappelle bit about how Trump the star was born from
No.
the so Chappelle's on, I think it's SNL, and um Hillary Clinton, it's like the first debate in like 2015 or 16 or whatever. And Hillary Clinton's like, you don't pay your taxes or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I know that makes me smart. And you've been in the Senate for however many years, and you didn't do anything about the tax code because your donors all use the same loopholes that I do. And Chappelle goes, and a star was born, right? So from that perspective, it's like actually getting that done is a lot more challenging in a way that will actually work. Is a
Well,
lot more
I
challenging to me than I think
think
than
here,
the
let's
slogan is.
unpack a few of these things. Okay, so first off, I hear what you're saying about Social Security. Um, However, I don't think it would make sense to expect that any changes to Social Security could feasibly occur within the next however many decades because
No, me neither.
well,
But
there's this very specific rule in the Senate called the Byrd Rule. It basically it was passed in the 70s. It was named after this Dixiecrat West Virginia senator. But basically, it determines what can go through the reconciliation process, which could pass with a simple majority of senators, and what needs to go through regular order, or which basically needs 60 senators to agree to end debate on a bill before it goes to the floor. And for whatever reason, they decided that Social Security, even though it's a program that takes in taxes and it, it just you would think that it could go through reconciliation, but for whatever reason this rule said, oh, it's different enough because of the trust fund that it needs to go through regular order. So basically, unless you can find 60 senators to agree to change Social Security in either direction, as long as the filibuster is in place, I wouldn't expect any movement on that. And so that's for Social Security. It's probably here to stay. um, Second, what with uh, I actually don't think it would be, I mean, obviously, I'm not I'm not an expert myself, but like gains, like realized gains are taxed fairly easily, and it's all done by the brokerages. Like, how hard would
yeah,
it be for them to tax unrealized gains if they were legally obligated to? I think it would be very easy, and also it would be impossible to avoid, again, because not only because of the exit tax I was telling you before. Like, Elon Musk can't just like renounce his U.S. citizenship. He also can't really move his Tesla stock in a way that doesn't cause a taxable event as easily as a blanket wealth tax. So you can move your business overseas, but you can't. It'd be much harder to avoid a tax on depreciation of equities. Um,
sure. Are
and
you
so,
in favor of taxing generally or no? Like if you could, obviously there's different things for taxes, right? But just as a general thing, are you like, yeah, like I like being taxed?
well, nobody likes being taxed. I think there
So
are
let me
certain
give
that are
the context. Let me give the context to the question because it's obviously a very oversimplified and kind of rudimentary thing. Obviously, nobody likes being taxed, but if you start taxing the appreciation of assets, you already have property tax and you already have land tax in some places. So, at what point does that Like, is somebody going to come into my house and be like, okay, there's a shortage of, um, you know, superconductor chips from Taiwan. You've got three laptops. That laptop is actually worth 3,000 instead of 1,000. Now we're going to tax you because your laptop is worth more. Like, that's a very extreme example, but no, their taxes are never repealed. Very rarely,
Right. Uh,
if any. And if you start taxing the appreciation of assets, like my concern or my thought, you're like, okay, we'll tax the unrealized gains of stocks, is that some of the stocks will be sold and they'll be put into real estate or something, gold, something else, right?
right.
Or crypto. Are you going to tax the unrealized gains of crypto and the volatility of crypto? And how does that work? So I just think across the board. I mean, not to get bogged down in unrealized tax, and I'll let you have the last word on it. But to me, it doesn't seem feasible to actually make it happen, nor does it seem like a great a great like scenario to occur. It's there's so many questions and problems that arise with that to me that I don't know. But I'll let you have the last word on it, and then we can go on to some of the other stuff that you've written about.
Okay, well, the idea is like if you can tax unrealized gains, then you could afford to reduce income taxes. Like that's my whole angle is that, well, yes, nobody likes being taxed, so let's reduce taxes on like however overwhelming majority of people you know go to work every day. So reduce income taxes, and you pay for the tax cut by taxing the rich instead of by cutting Medicaid, for example, or by cutting uh, these programs where it's hard to find any a majoritarian appetite on Capitol Hill to cut any of these programs. So if you just change like where the taxes are coming from, that would by itself help a lot of people out without even touching the policies.
Well, I would also think that you would not have a consensus on Capitol Hill to do an unrealized gains tax either.
President Biden did talk about this as an idea, and I don't remember how many senators were in favor of it, but I mean, I think, and this could pass through reconciliation, by the way, because it's a type of tax, and it's not. I mean, yeah, it's part of the appropriation process. Basically, it can go through reconciliation. So feasibly, if there are a simple majority of senators, and uh, enough people in the House of Representatives, and a president who's willing to do this, it could happen.
Hmm. We will see for sure. Okay, so let's see what other things that you've got going on. So you want to talk about the decentralization of power is another thing that you've written about.
Yeah.
Um, talk through that. Talk through some of your ideas on that. And I think this is one where we find a lot more agreement on. I'm with you. I think the decentralization of power is a good thing, right? The delegation of authority, even in businesses, right? Anywhere, even if it goes down all the way to the level of like on my soccer team, if I'm coaching or I'm playing, I want the players on the field to feel empowered to make the decision, okay, oh, I'm going to cross or I'm going to shoot, or I'm going to do like in almost every aspect of life, empowering the individual that's actually doing whatever the work is or that activity to make the decision. Like to me, it's just a generally speaking, uh, a better way of doing things. You want people to be empowered to take responsibility and to kind of do those things. So talk through some of your ideas on that.
So yes, I think in all these systems, well, I guess we'll just talk about the economy and the government. Um, both of these systems arise sort of uh, organically through people's like acts of volition. In the free market, that's like the you know using your money to buy whatever's on the market or sell whatever. And in a democracy, that's the freedom to vote. So these systems that are built out of like this sort of uh, it's not really coordinated, but like just individual acts of volition. These systems, and in theory, they can like amazing things. Like they've been able to accomplish amazing things. Which and I think the problem today with both of those systems is that there's too much power at the top. There's this concentration of power. With Donald Trump, he has the power to you know apply blanket tariffs like any country on earth, even our allies around the world.
Hmm.
Um, and so to decentralize power in the government, there are ways to. There's actually an effort going on somewhat recently, the War Powers Resolution. It was a somewhat bipartisan effort by the progressives and by a few sort of libertarian-minded Republicans like Thomas Massie from Kentucky and I think Rand Paul. Um, but yeah, trying to basically say, well, no, Congress actually has the power to basically strike Iran. President Trump alone cannot do that. Um, and so that's the government, and then the decentralization of power in the economy. Um, there are ways to do this without public ownership. I think, for one, this idea of have you heard of co-ops?
Hmm.
Yeah, so basically, people in the community, um, well, it could be just like business owners, like owning, but it wouldn't need to go through the government. It would be like ordinary people just having a say in. It's kind of like what the stock market is supposed to do, is where the shareholders have like a vote technically, but it just so happens that overwhelmingly wealthy people have a disproportionate amount of the stock. So it's not really democratic. But anyway, so the co-ops could help with that. Claw back power from um, these corporate entities that just, well, I guess if you talk about like grocery stores, like they shrink the sizes of their products but charge the same amount and think we won't notice. That's called, I think Senator Casey was calling that shrinkflation. Um, and then yeah, so I think if more, if these systems that, I mean, they're like, there's like, democracy and the free market. If they're, if people at the top didn't have as much power and there was more power spread across many people, then these systems could actually work like they're intended. And so I guess, like, politically speaking, I would call myself a bull moose liberal. So this is sort of bull moose going back to President Teddy Roosevelt,
Hmm.
early 1900s. Um, and okay, so technically he was a Republican, but he's also he was a bull moose progressive, and he went on this big trust busting campaign. Like, these big monopolies in the economy, they were kind of throwing their weight around. They had enormous influence over politics. I think J.P. Morgan himself bailed out the Treasury in I think it was 1907 because like he had that much power. It's like, well, okay, I mean, I guess this is good that like the economy didn't implode, but like one person should not have that much power over the entire economy.
Yep.
And so yeah, so and he was famous for advocating for a square deal, square meaning fair and square for ordinary people. Um, and I think, like what you see on the Philly Tech Dude site, that's like sort of very much in line with this sort of this populist, capitalist sort of vision that claws back power for ordinary people. This isn't really represented in either party, this ideology, that well, but yeah. So I guess this would go back to, yeah, like this has been done before and it's been successful before, like this type of way of thinking. And um I'm not trying to say that I'm, like I haven't managed to accomplish anything yet, but like that's sort of like the ideological area where I think I'm looking at like different politicians. He's kind of like the most, and also Ross Perot a little bit, but kind of. And again, Ross Perot's not really represented that well now. Well, I mean, the kind of with Trump. So Trump kind of appeals to Ross Perot voters, I think, and that's sort of his shtick with the tariffs on Canada. Oh, by the way, Ross Perot was talking about NAFTA. The tariffs on the EU. Well, who was rooting for Brexit? So I think Trump understands very much this sort of, I guess this sort of populist sort of phenomenon in the electorate. It sort of became out of the globalization of the economy that outsourced labor. Now, back in the 1900s, one of the biggest industries were U.S. steel and what was it? It was oil.
Hmm.
And also banking. And so basically, U.S. manufacturing was like enormous. Like, U.S. manufacturing was like the powerhouse of the economy. Now, fast forward, a lot of that manufacturing left. Okay, it was mostly to China but it could have been anywhere that had cheap labor. So I think when we're talking about how Donald Trump has used his concentration of power in the Oval Office to sort of punish those people. And like I guess the biggest tariffs were on China. Well, okay, China didn't really steal the jobs. It was the corporations that shipped the jobs overseas, and he's using this sort of like this like he's speaking to the anger of people who lost I guess their factory towns to the globalization of the economy. Um, and I think that it's because these people feel powerless too. These people who lost their union, steady union jobs, they were told by people like Bill Clinton, "Oh, free trade will usher in a new area of prosperity." Well, maybe the opposite happened for them. So I think uh, authoritarianism thrives when people feel powerless, and that's why I think we need decentralization of power, not just in the economy, but also in our democracy, and also even within political parties. Like I was talking about before, how the neoliberal democratic establishment tries to preserve their status within the party. They just like sort of reductive criticism of them is like they view MAGA as extreme. They also view the progressives as extreme, and they are the enlightened center. And I think they have a it's just like it's frustrating. Like maybe they do have a lot of experience, and they push for policies that are based on evidence, but like there needs to be a democratization of power within the party too. And I guess it's the same way on the Republican Party. Like maybe George W. Bush starting forever wars in the Middle East, maybe people lost faith in the Republican establishment. And oh, well, when people lose faith, they feel powerless. That allows for conditions for someone like Donald Trump to rise into power. Oh, well, nobody can fix anything. Everything's points. Oh, maybe he alone can fix it. At least he makes me feel something. So I think
Yeah.
the decentralization of power is vitally important. That's why I believe in uh, you know, civic and financial education. Financial education especially because like money is math, and money is also freedom. And if you don't have a basic financial literacy, like how can you be possibly expected to live the American dream? Like it requires some amount of ownership on the part of people, but also we need like these resources are also kind of gate kept from ordinary people. Finance isn't as complicated as these people in suits and ties, like a lot of people did think it is, but I think the wealthy benefit from the you know how like finance feels inaccessible to most people.
Yeah, I think
And
there's guys like Humphrey Yang and Graham Stevens, I think his name is, the iced coffee hour guy. And there's a few others on YouTube. There's some big like YouTube resources now that are starting to help with that sort of thing. So I think it's
yeah,
becoming more accessible. I think people just need to know where to look. Um, and like Humphrey Yang, his stuff is super good. He's like, yeah, just put it into this mutual fund and let it sit. And it's like that's very sound advice. But he's got a bunch of other stuff as well. And then
and
in terms of the decentralization of the parties, I think you're completely right on that, right? We see this in 2016 and 2020, right? Bernie was probably going to win the primary in both instances. And it's I think been confirmed that he was cheated out of it the first time by Clinton, and then the second time out of it by kind of those neoliberal kind of group that you mentioned before. And then same with the Republicans on the other side, where it's like right now it's like outside of Trump, it's like who's next? Is it JD Vance? They don't know, maybe, but it's like there's a reshaping of that party, and I think that leaves the door open maybe for a third party. But I do think actually the Libertarian Party as well, they're not going to win anything anytime soon.
oh, the
I
Mises
think
thing,
you said what?
the Mises Caucus that wrecked everything. Um,
Well, I don't know if they wrecked everything, but I think they used so they are not going to win anything anytime soon in terms of national elections. But what they did do, I think, was try to exercise some form of leverage over concessions, right? So they got the Ross Ulbricht pardon and a few other things that they wanted that are important to the Libertarian kind of party to get into that as a like Trump went to the Libertarian National Convention to speak, RFK Jr. went to the Libertarian National Convention to speak, and while they might not be winning anything, I think that's an important step into the acknowledgement of the importance of third party. So right, it's going to be a slow burn there, But the fact that two mainstream presidential candidates are going to speak at those, and oh, RFK Jr. was the other one that got kind of pushed out of the Democratic primary, and then Kamala wasn't chosen as a primary either. So all those things to your point. But I think
Did RFK president? I don't remember. Oh, I guess he did. Wasn't his shtick declare your independence? I don't remember. Anyway,
RFK
yeah,
he was trying to run as a primary challenger to Biden, and then they kept basically saying, "Well, you're polling at 10%. Actually, you need 11 now." And then the like the was it the
yeah.
Committee on Debates or whatever changed the rules, and then Trump and Biden agreed that they were only going to do that one, and then we all know how that went. But um,
Forgot about that, but yeah, I mean, like that's what I'm saying. These people in power in the parties, they don't represent a majority of the party, but they just basically snuff out competing, any competition, they consolidate power for themselves. Oh, by the way, what sort of leverage does the Democratic Party have in the federal government? Probably not, like nothing for now. Maybe after the midterms, okay, maybe they'll win the House, but it's just at some point, it's just like, um, yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, about the libertarian parties. So actually, the state of Pennsylvania, the quintessential swing state. Um, as it turns out, the Libertarian State Party in Pennsylvania, I mean, we're grading on the curve, but has a history of being the most competent Libertarian State Party in the country. Oh, and also I think that's why you've seen recent successful statewide elected officials like Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman, at least on the Democratic side. Josh Shapiro's whole shtick is real freedom, and he has had the same stump speech for like the past 4 years. It's basically it touches on these ideas of like Rothbard's ideas of negative and positive liberty. He's like, well, it's not freedom to tell the kids what books they can't read. It's not freedom to tell you can't love these people, but it's freedom. And he gets into positive liberty here, where he's talking about you look into you look at that little girl, you see the potential, and you invest in her public school. So it's just sort of like this sort of message of I guess of personal empowerment, kind of. And he also talks about the freedom to chart your own course. So, and he won statewide in Pennsylvania. Also,
mhm.
when he was running, every county, every vote, that was his thing. But he also he was like an unconventional progressive. There's he advocated for the legalization of marijuana, the decriminalization of marijuana. He actually lobbied Biden to do that after he won his race in the Senate. But and then he also there's a point where he was running. There's a picture of him with a rainbow Gadsden flag. I mean, I think at least in the state of Pennsylvania, like it matters. Like the libertarian, not just the Libertarian Party, but libertarian-minded people matter in Pennsylvania for state.
Mhm.
And that's why in 2016, what was Hillary Clinton's whole deal? I'm with her. That's an appeal to authority.
Yep.
Kamala, white dudes for her. A black woman for her. Like, okay, so this didn't work in 2016, so why are you doing it on steroids? Anyway, and especially if there's a woman at the top of the ticket, we're with her. We're with the big boss. Oh, people are sexist. They thought she was bossy. Boo hoo. It's like, oh, why did they think this would work? Also, it's like why are people for? Why is she not for us? It's just like it could have been Kamala for white dudes, Kamala for black women. Like at least that would have been like I don't know. It's unfathomable to me how this happens. And I think it's evidence that the people running that campaign, there's not enough, there wasn't enough diversity of opinion. And what happened back there in 2024, Biden won the primary. Oh, and then he had that catastrophic debate with Trump, yes. But I think there was very few people behind the scenes who ran that campaign to push him out. I think, and obviously, like there hasn't been any transparency really or much on this, but I mean, Biden didn't speak to Nancy Pelosi for months, and Nancy Pelosi has this really big amount of influence within the party. So, and this is kind of conspiracy, but like I think she led the charge behind the scenes, and I think, and she there's been instances like, for example, in 2009 when the Affordable Care Act almost didn't happen. Nancy Pelosi alone had to basically put her foot down and get it done. So I think there's instances where Nancy Pelosi has this sort of authoritarian leadership style, but she has gotten a lot done. And I think, well, that's not a healthy dynamic. It's not a healthy power dynamic. Maybe she alone can't fix it.
No. Well, I mean, she's also got at this point a bill named after her that's going into debate about congressional stock trading. So
Oh,
she's
really?
got yeah. Did you know about that?
No, I didn't hear about this. I just is it to ban stock trading?
Yeah, so Josh Hawley put this bill through. I think it's in I
Oh,
think
okay.
he's a senator, and they called it they called it the Pelosi Act to ban congressional stock trading. Um,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
in any event, so she's got a lot of baggage to say the least.
Well, she came to
Um,
prominence by being like this extraordinary fundraiser. Well, it turns out you can earn a lot of money by getting a lot of rich people.
yeah, yeah. It also helps that her district is San Francisco and Silicon Valley, and there's a lot of money in that. You mentioned decentralization a bunch of times, and we talked about that. How do you feel like the crypto people and the Bitcoin people and the blockchain people? That's their big thing, decentralization as well. But I see on your thing that it doesn't. You write about it in maybe a not so positive light.
Well, I think the problem with because there's so much of the economy that's based on the U.S. dollar.
Hmm.
Um, and so for these alternative currencies, it's just sort of like, well, I mean, for one, and maybe this is also part of the banking industry that like they might cancel your checking account if they suspect you're doing stuff with crypto. So, but it's also just like so much stuff
Wait,
happening.
really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they. I mean, crypto is kind of like I don't know if there's that many regulations, but like you have to be careful what about doing stuff with crypto. It's just like well, we already have a currency. It's the U.S. dollar. Um, we I think we can just work with this currency. It's a fiat currency. Also, why is crypto worth anything? Like, what is it based off of?
Well, what is the dollar? Why is the dollar worth anything?
Well, it's technically it's like indirectly based off of the economy of the United States.
Yeah, but the dollar is just a piece of paper that we assign value to. So if
That,
you say that you've got X number of whatever US dollar coins, right? Like we can assign that the same value.
yeah, yes, and also it's just like so much of the economy is already in the U.S. dollar. It's like why I don't so like why would we need to switch? Like why do we need to switch off? That's my big thing. It's just like okay, there are these other currencies. They're really speculative, and um, it's just like I don't I like I mean I like the idea of centralization, but I don't think currencies need to be decentralized as much. And a lot of the people pushing for crypto, they're also like some people are pushing for a return to the gold standard, which makes no sense. I, I just like that. Like I don't see how. I'm just kind of skeptical. It's like a very new kind of currency, and if you want like a currency that's stable or a currency that you don't want it's kind of like for me it's just like the idea would be like basing a lot of our economy on like penny stocks. It seems really speculative. It seems well, here's this new technology. I understand like this sort of decentralized aspect of it. I like the concept of decentralization, but well, we already have decentralization in the economy in the form of people buying what they want and selling what they want. Like, so why does the currency itself have to be decentralized?
Well, I think there's two parts with that. In terms of your penny stock point, I get that if you're talking about crypto as a whole, right? There's a lot of meme coins and altcoins and right, fart coin is one. It's like all these things that are ridiculous. But I think people use Bitcoin not as a currency, but as an asset, as a store of value, rather than to do everyday transactions with it. And in terms of decentralization of the economy, I mean, we talked earlier about interchange fees, and you in Philadelphia have got three separate income taxes, and there's sales taxes, and so if you were to purchase something in Philadelphia, it gets taxed three separate times as you make the money, and then as you spend it again, you get taxed again on the transaction that you made plus the interchange fee. So that to me is not super decentralized, right?
Oh,
You
yeah,
get like 15 different entities taking chops at it on the way through on the exchange of hands, and it's like that doesn't seem super decentralized to me. Whereas the point of the blockchain and crypto, at least to my understanding, is it's peer to peer. Like I send you X number of whatever coins and you get X number of whatever coins, and there's no interchange fee, there's no nothing. It's point to point and it's completely transparent. And also you can't change the blockchain in terms of like there's no you can't fiddle with the books, right? Like as you could in other places.
you
And
can't.
so
Yeah, I honestly don't have enough of a background to really talk with my very much authority on this. I would need to look more into crypto. I've never really dabbled in it. It
oh,
just
okay.
so I do like I mean, I can see where it's coming from. It's just sort of, and also when you're talking about different taxes, that's why I'm kind of a single tax kind of guy. Like there only needs to be one tax. You just tax the rich. Oh, that would allow us to eliminate sales taxes and income taxes. Oh, if you can just tax the rich, because like why would you tax people before they get rich? Just tax them after they get rich. Like,
Well, then you disincentivize people to create stuff. No?
no, no, you incentivize people to create stuff because like you would reduce income taxes.
But to a certain point. It's like the small, it's like in government contracting how there's large businesses, medium-sized businesses, and small businesses, and there's small like the Small Business Administration has set asides for small business. There's certain businesses in certain sectors of government contracting that will never go above X number of dollars of revenue or employees because then they change status and
Right.
they lose access to that. And so to me, if you've got a good viable product, like let's say you and I are building something and we're like, you know what? This product is great, but we're only going to sell 100 of these a year, so we don't have to pay taxes.
But
It's like, but what if that thing helps a lot of people?
that's more on corporate taxes. But a tax on unrealized gains that's in like private portfolios. It's not. Well, I
That's
guess
just the point. But we would make more money as we sold more, right? Like
yeah.
if you and I are the owners, we'd make X number of dollars. And even if like it's unrealized, if you own 50% of the stock and I own 50% of the stock, and we're like, you know what? We're gonna cap how much we're selling at
We,
whatever the amount is.
of course, the devil's in the details. It should be possible. Like at least Biden was proposing this tax on unrealized gains wouldn't be on everyone. It would be on only people who are rich. So again, people who aren't rich yet, they can produce stuff. But then once they get rich, it creates this sort of effect where wealthy people are incentivized to use their wealth in the economy instead of hoarding it. And that goes just back to this sort of
So you're saying if they spend it, then actually, so you're saying if they spend it, then right? So if the incentive is to put it back into the economy, does investing in companies in the form of stocks not count as that?
well, it does, but if you're holding on to this stock for 50 years straight, then that's not like that. It just there's all this wealth that isn't really used as it's not as productive. Like that money could be put to work by investing maybe again or like in a different company. See, like because there's a disincentive to sell the stocks because that's a massive taxable event. So a lot of people just end up hoarding it. But for example, if it were taxed, mark to market, like if we were to implement, if the government were to implement a tax on unrealized gains, then there would be incentive. Oh, well, let's look at this investment. Okay, what maybe you invest in someone else. See, I think that would cause more move like it would be more less stagnation. Like the money would move around.
Yeah, I think you hit on something super important there, right? There's a disincentive to sell the stock right now. So to me, that's a get rid of all taxes on that sort of thing and slash spending, right? It's because you again, right, we both agree on kind of that sort of concept in terms of one tax sort of thing. So to me, if you're disincentivized to sell your stock right now because of capital gains tax, and you want people to start moving that money around instead of taxing it for for not selling it, I would just not tax it at all. And then everyone has more money to invest everywhere. To me. But I like I see your point, but I think do you see my point as well? There's a lot of
Yeah,
things, a lot of questions that go into that. Okay, so let's go into what was the other thing that we wanted to talk about? I don't recall exactly what we talked about on the phone yesterday. We talked about taxes, obviously. We talked about Social Security. We talked about economy a little bit and decentralization. We talked about your startup. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
I mean, yeah, I guess like the last 2 weeks have been a lot. I mean, I just like I'm a new small business owner. Uh,
Yeah.
it's been a learning experience, and it's not that I haven't had like a plan, but like there's certain things you can only learn through doing. Uh,
Yeah.
and so um, basically, yeah, my plan is to move into Taipei on a gold card to cut my living expenses. I think I mentioned this uh, yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I'm starting this small business and I'm shipping myself overseas to cut labor costs. It's I mean, yeah, like basically I've saved enough where I'm basically shifting my whole portfolio to this high yield sort of portfolio where I'm going to be getting around 7% uh, in interest. And so I have enough saved up where I could potentially get close to breaking even if I move into Taipei. In the United States of America, it's basically 80% of minimum wage is what my portfolio would be making me. And that's nowhere near enough in the United States to to live long term. Now, I mean, um, so I'm exploring different ways to cut costs. Like we were alluding to earlier. Yes, I cut the internet to my apartment in South Philly to save $55 a month, and that's why I'm literally in my mom's basement right now. Um, so yeah, and then I mean, I was looking at different plasma donation centers. You can make quite a bit of money, donating your blood plasma, and this is a pretty common uh, tactic people use to earn a little extra money on the side. And a lot of these places will offer new donors, extra money. So in the first month. So I was looking at that. I was looking at doing online tutoring. I could be a math tutor. I did that briefly in college. I used to tutor for this place called uh, Chegg Tutors back in college. This was in like 2018 or so, or 2017. And then, I don't remember what's the name of the. I was doing some networking. I'm in the Working Families Party Slack, and then someone posted about this job board, and I found this online tutoring company through that. So yeah, I mean, well, I know math. I became a software engineer. Math was my favorite subject in high school. I went to the College of Engineering at Cornell University. Well, maybe I can teach the kids math. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be a way to earn money. And then I'm not eating out anymore. I'm gonna start cooking. Um, and so that, yeah, I'm just trying to find ways to cut costs while I'm in the United States of America, like not earning as much revenue. And then obviously the biggest thing would be moving to Taipei. Um, Again, like the gold card is a specific type of visa that I think they launched it in like around 2017, 2018. They're trying to attract foreign talent. Um, and part of my goal would be to use technology to make it easier for people to interact with our democracy. And that's an area of interest that they care a lot about, like tech for democracy. Um, and also, I wouldn't just be by myself in Taipei. I know a few people who spent the greater part of the last year being Fulbright scholars teaching English at various schools in Taipei and Yuan. So basically, I'm exactly the type of person that they want to attract with this gold card. At least that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, also I haven't gone through the application process yet. And it's probably going to take several months, but I already told my landlord I'm not renewing my lease on my apartment, so I have basically until I guess February, uh, uh, and then even if I don't get the gold card by then, there might be a way to sort of, well, here's a temporary 90-day thing so I can just work it out within those 90 days, and then yeah. And these forward scholars, they're moving. They have a job lined up in Taiwan again because it's too expensive to live in the United States. So they're instead taking a job over at cram schools in Taiwan. So
Mm.
I think that's also kind of commentary on like the cost of living in the United States. Um, like and maybe ironically, this is only possible for me because the unrealized gains on my portfolio are not being taxed right now. But also I'm not really that, like, I don't have like I'm not a millionaire, for example. So like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not close to being a millionaire.
Are you worried at all about the potential conflict in Taiwan with China and all that stuff at all? Like you're
Oh,
going into an area where there's a lot of military exercises and tension in that part of the world.
I mean, it's sort of like uh, the people over there have just heard that it's like kind of like, well, we've heard this our whole lives, this sort of type of thing. It's like, oh, I mean, obviously that's something that is a risk, um, but I mean, as an American citizen, I'll make sure to know what my like emergency exit plans are, uh, and whatever my criticisms of the current Trump administration are. I mean, at least he's Mr. Hard on China. So, and I think that that's one thing is just like Dr. Brands and that you were the guy you formerly interviewed. He
Hmm.
about there being a massive unpredictability with like the United States' view on geopolitics and politics around the world. At least on China, I think that's fairly stable.
Yeah.
It's basically like, well, okay, Taiwan isn't officially its own country. It's technically a part of mainland China, but um, you know, it's just sort of like uh, at least that, and then that plays into sort of well, we just want peace, right? I think everyone wants peace. I think most people in China want peace too, although they don't really have representation in the government. But yeah, just people don't like war, uh, and there's a vested interest into maintaining the peace in that region. Also, because Taiwan produces a disproportionate amount of the high quality semiconductor chips
Hmm.
around the world. That's one of their things. Like, well, if something were to happen to them, the economy takes a nosedive around the world.
Yeah.
Like, it would be catastrophic. Um, and the economy's already doing bad. So like, you know, so I mean, nothing's for sure, but um, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. And I guess yeah, and if something were to happen, we'd have advanced nodes. They couldn't like they'd have to amass like troops, kind of like how Russia took however many days to amass troops on the border before they invaded Ukraine.
Hmm.
They it would have to be we would see evidence leading up to it, and then uh yeah. So but I mean, just that is sort of like this very unlikely but like real possibility of war breaking out. But you could say the same thing of anywhere. Like people, like I guess, like who could have foreseen the invasion into Ukraine? And would that have
A lot of people, honestly.
actually a lot of people? But I mean, yeah. So it's sort of like you can plan for the worst, but like and obviously the goal for me isn't to stay there long term. I would just try to start up my business, and then if I'm earning enough, I'll move back into the United States. But again, like this sort of venture wouldn't be possible in just living in the United States. I mean, I could technically, I would burn through my savings over however many years. It's technically possible, but like it makes much more financial sense for me to try this in Taipei because all I need is an internet connection. Like
Yeah.
I do is would be online. Software. I can work from home. I can work. I would be a digital nomad basically.
Yeah. 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 Fair enough. Well, my friend, it's been great talking to you. The time has flown by. Do you have any last nickels before we get you out of here?
We went through a lot. We talked a lot about politics. But yeah, I think that it's important for anyone out there. It's important to whatever career you decide or whatever you do with your life. At the end of the day, you have to look yourself in the mirror and be okay with that. And so for me, this is my way of doing that. I couldn't stay in corporate America. I mean, I was earning the most money I earned in my life, but I couldn't look myself in the mirror and respect the man I saw. So, and especially with everything I believe, about the economy, about government, about politics, and also I have all these skills that were underutilized while I was in corporate America. Like I couldn't write as much music as I wanted while in corporate America. I couldn't spin up this print on demand shop. Like you saw that shirt I showed you earlier. I can even show you
Yeah.
like um I was trying to spin this up, but like there was no time. Like
Yeah.
this is a this is a look. Like I think I got something here. Like I think this like no matter what you think about politics, like this type of design across different images, like it could be um animals, it could be it could be whatever image you want, but in that style, I think that could take off. But I couldn't spin this up while I was working in corporate America. I just like because you put maybe 8 or even more than 8 hours in a day, and then I came home, I was just tired.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to do more coding. Um, and then there were times when I tried to do side projects, and I would kind of burn myself out. And so yeah, I can code, I can do. I guess I'm a digital artist with like this. And then I can compose, arrange, mix, and master music. You saw that website I sent you. I'm pretty articulate. I can write. I haven't been able to use my full range of skills while being in corporate America. Basically, for me, being in corporate America was selling out.
Mm.
So I guess for anyone who watched this whole thing, just like, and I guess I also, am I supposed to say the question that I sent you for the next person?
No, no, no. It's a surprise. You're good.
Okay.
It's a surprise. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
Okay.
good.
Well, I'll make it more broad. It's just like, well, it's just like a lot of people just they kind of go through the motions. And again, maybe I'm different because I don't have like a family of my own. I'm young. I have a lot of options. Where maybe if you have a family, okay, you can't really afford to make risky decisions as much. But it's just sort of like, I guess for young people out there, like, how are you going to, uh, like 20 years in the future? How are you going to be able to look back on the last 20 years and be proud of what you've done and be
Mm. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I think, right, taking responsibility, taking ownership of yourself and your life. I think 100%, man, 100%. Where can the people find your startup and your other stuff? Just to say the links or anything else that you want people to know, and I'll put those in the description.
I think I sent you them, and I have to work on setting up my social media. But for one, my company website would be agorapluribus.com, and then um, I will set up a personal site called apmike.net. Uh, so yeah, AP for Agora Pluribus, and Mike MIKE, that's my name, and then .net. The .network would be my main software platform. But yeah, I'm gonna migrate that site I sent you over to that. That'll be only part of it. Um,
Yeah.
that's gonna be where I'm gonna put my music there. I'm gonna put other stuff. It would be more of like it might be more of a personal blog kind of thing, whereas the agorapluribus.com site would be my company site. Um, and then you can find me on LinkedIn. Uh, like what's the URL? I sent it to you. I think it's. I'm not gonna
I'll
miss.
put it in the description. It's all good. All right, last question. Where did the name Agora Pluribus come from?
Okay, so yeah, so Agora that goes back to ancient Greece. In ancient Greece, there was this sort of common area, like a marketplace. Also, was called the Agora, and it was like people. Uh, it would be like a centerpiece of the community, or at least a good um, place to to be with other people. And then also, pluribus comes from that Latin term "e pluribus unum," out of many one, and so and this kind of plays into I guess my vision, sort of like people are individuals, but we also live in a society. It's just like how can you use your skills, like the freedoms that you have at your disposal. How can you use the agency that you have in your own mind, your own body, and just your own autonomy to make to give back to the community that raised you. It's sort of like that. That's sort of it's not. It's sort of it's not collectivism, but I mean it's like bottom up collectivism. It's kind of like emergentist collectivism. That's the sort of um, like how I view things. It's again, like we go back to these systems, these beautiful systems, the free market and this democracy that arise out of individual acts of volition. I think that it's just there's something very profound about that. I love about that. Just sort of well, it's sort of a paradox, like how these systems can become bigger than the sum of their parts, and um, and also there's the whole civic angle where I'm trying to like uh, not just provide software and educational resources to help people feel more empowered, but also it would also help people who are living in a democracy like actually contribute in a way that the system intended people to contribute. To
Yeah.
maybe just write to your representative, or you know, oh, what's going on with the local party, or I think too much stuff is national, and if it's national, then there's these very powerful entities in politics that control all the narratives, but they don't control what you say. I mean, they can't control what either you or I am saying on this podcast for sure. I think there's this sort of people feel powerless, but like actually like there is a narrative. Like there's your narrative. So what's your narrative? And then it's just sort of there's not like the sense of one narrative or whatever. It's just like so maybe there's like there's millions of narratives. It's just so that's kind of where Agora Pluribus came from. And Agora Pluribus Technologies because like I'm a software engineer by trade. Like I think there's opportunities to use technology, maybe to use AI to analyze, public laws or public budgets, or even like, for example, the Trump administration released declassified the JFK files. Maybe, I mean, there's thousands of pages. Well, maybe AI can go through that faster. Just not, like, not by itself. Like, it would be a good head start. Like, I think technology can be used to benefit ordinary people and not just be part of this corporate machine that exploits people for profit. So that's kind of why I started this whole thing. And I haven't accomplished anything yet, but give me a few years. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll check back in for sure. For those listening, check the links out in the description. Thank you for listening, and like always, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you want to watch another episode like this one, click there. If you want to subscribe, click there.